following, of course, immersive media, even to show immersive sound started in the 16th century, and you all know Venice and the different choirs which were implemented. Interesting aspect here is that architecture was playing together with the creation of fully spatial sound. In other words, these choruses you see on the left and the right were enabling the choruses, the singing choirs, to take a different position. So in the maximum there were 8 choirs in this building in different places and performing the music. And suddenly music becomes a very immersive experience, even though a church acoustic is anyway an immersive acoustic. And then you have the 56, the switch to speaker, quite a different culture, quite a different technology. And you have the first rotation implemented by Stockhausen in the WDR, Radio Cologne. And that's in 1956, where the evolution of spatial, the use of space, began a new push. Then, of course, you all know the Philips Pavilion in 58, and interesting here is you had an evolution in moving sound through speaker paths. These speakers were placed in paths inside the building, and switches switch the speaker, the sounds on and off, and let the sound move along these speaker paths. So again, movement and spatial or immersive experience was important here. And of course, you know, the Kugel Auditorium in Osaka, and here was for the first time the formulation. So that's happening when you have a stereo sound of a piece. You have many sound information, and several sounds come together, the softer sounds. But what happens if you place the soft sound on the left side and the loud sound on the right side of your ear? You still perceive them. So this covering of information is not happening, or not as strongly happening, if you have a multi-channel speaker array. And basically this is one part where you can prove you hear more information, more sounds, complex sounds, when you have multiple speaker arrays, or speaker arrays with multiple speakers. So you are able to, it's a complex network of effects going on, and you can take advantage of all the effects of these movements. As well, if you have several moving objects, they sound more real and physical, not only immersive, but as well real and physical. As well, we have a perspective of a field. You hear a sound further away and a sound closer to yourself. So perspective, the field of depth, which you wouldn't have at least in a mono situation. In a stereo situation, you have a little spatial aspect, but in an immersive environment, you have a much stronger perspective and depth of field. It's interesting when you have an immersive sound environment, every of the listener is hearing something different, because you are sitting closer to one speaker, the other one is sitting closer to some other speakers. So you have an individual perspective to the sound. And especially if you move, you can hear different aspects of the sound. You can start to interact with the way you are listening. And this is only possible if you have an immersive environment. And I think this is nearly the last aspect. Of course, immersiveness makes the listener be part of the sound scenery. You are not observing an object in front of you, you are inside the object, you are part of the object. And from media art, we all know how different the experience is if you are part of an environment, how much stronger the experience is much more intensive. It intensifies the experience of perception, and this is what you can get with installation. And I think it still exists. And a very recent installation was the Hexadome, was in cooperation with the Institute for Sound and Music in Berlin. And they set up a sound dome and poly screen environment here in the Gropiusbau, which moved later to Montreal and San Francisco. I don't know all of the stations it was placed, and they commissioned several authors, several composers to create some works for them, amongst them Brian Eno, you probably know him, who worked his color field, who used the display as a color field projection and a very slow migration mechanism. Here's some pictures of this installation in the Gropiusbau. And I think that was basically it, and I'm very open for questions you have. I did not hear any question yet.
No, that's correct. Maybe one question would be from my side. There seems to be a kind of I mean, there is quite a history with spatial sound, but it seems that it finds certain niche uses, but it does not really